All right, today we're diving into a really powerful idea from the book, The Symphony of Imperfection, and it's a big one. What if the very things we think are our biggest weaknesses, our flaws, our scars, our mistakes, what if those are actually the source of our greatest strength? Let's get into it.
So, the book kicks off with this really intriguing quote: Shogun's staples. What on earth does that mean? Well, it points to this core problem we all have, this deep down need to hide our cracks, to cover up our flaws with something that's cold, industrial, and, well, kind of ugly.
And that's a perfect lead-in to our first big idea, the perfection trap. We're going to see how this constant chase for a flawless image doesn't actually make us stronger. In fact, it makes us incredibly fragile. To really get this, we've got to go back to the 15th century. Picture this: a Japanese shogun's favorite tea bowl shatters. He's crushed. He sends it all the way to China to be fixed. And it comes back, but it's held together with these clunky, ugly metal staples. Sure, it holds tea, but the beauty is gone. So local craftsmen came up with this completely radical idea. Instead of hiding the cracks, why don't we celebrate them? So they mended the bowl with lacquer mixed with pure gold dust, turning it into something way more beautiful and even stronger than before.
This story is the perfect illustration of what the book calls the perfection paradox. See, we aim for 100% efficiency, right? Zero mistakes, zero wiggle room. We think that's the goal. But the truth is, a system with no slack, no room to breathe, is incredibly brittle. The second it gets hit with unexpected pressure, it doesn't bend. It just shatters.
So, if being perfect is just a trap, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to the absolute heart of this whole idea, the Kintsugi mindset. This is where we learn to see where the gold really goes.
Okay, so let's get a really clear definition here. Kintsugi is this Japanese art of repairing broken pottery, but instead of glue, they use lacquer mixed with powdered gold or silver. The whole philosophy isn't just to fix something, it's to honor its history and make it even more beautiful because it was broken.
And this image, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? The cracks aren't failures you should be ashamed of. They're the story of the object, what makes it unique. And this is the part you really gotta remember. The cracks are where the gold goes. All right, so this is a beautiful metaphor, right? But how does it actually work in our lives, in our careers? That's what we're talking about next in Your Flaws, Your Fuel. We're gonna look at how obstacles can actually become your biggest advantages. Just think about this employee paradox. You've got the perfect employee. They follow the manual perfectly, every single time. Super efficient. Right up until the moment that manual is completely useless. Then what? They're lost. But the flawed employee, the one who's always experimenting, skipping steps, asking why, they're the only one who knows how to figure things out when the rules change and everything is chaos. And it's the exact same thing with resources. The book makes this great point that having tons of resources, abundance, is often a curse. It just leads to bloated projects, slow decisions, and meetings about having more meetings. But scarcity, which we usually see as a flaw or a problem, that's actually an advantage. It forces you to be creative, to be fast, and to focus only on what is absolutely essential. So here's the big mental shift you have to make. A flaw isn't some permanent thing that's wrong with you. You have to think of it like a vector. It's got power, that's its magnitude, and it's got a direction it's pointed in. The trick isn't to get rid of the power, it's just to change the direction. And here's the game plan for how to actually do that. First, you just have to notice when that flaw is causing trouble. Step 2, and this is the most important part, stop trying to suppress it. Stop wasting all that energy trying to not be that way. Instead, and this is the pivot, you find a problem that needs that exact energy. Are you stubborn? Great. Find a challenge that needs someone who will never, ever give up. Okay, so we've talked about this for ourselves. Now let's scale it up to leadership. The book has this amazing concept called leading with your limp. And it's all about how your vulnerability is actually your greatest source of authority. So let me just ask you this. You're about to climb a really dangerous mountain, and a massive storm is rolling in. Which guide are you going to trust with your life? The perfect guide, the one with the spotless record who tells you, don't worry, it'll be easy. Or the guide with a noticeable limp from a nasty case of frostbite who points to the map and says, right here, this is where the ice gets treacherous. You trust the one with the limp every time. Why? Because they have what the book calls survival authority. They're not speaking from a textbook, they're speaking from scar tissue. When you lead with your limp, when you're open about your own struggles,
It instantly closes that trust gap. You stop collecting fans and you start attracting true allies who believe in the mission. And maybe most importantly, you give your whole team permission to be human, which creates a culture where mistakes get fixed instead of getting hidden.
And that all leads us to our final, really powerful conclusion here. This is about completely reframing how you see yourself, not as something broken that needs to be fixed, but as a beautiful, evolving, unfinished masterpiece.
I mean, think about it like this. Perfection, it's a closed door. It's an endpoint. Once you're there, where else is there to go? But imperfection, now that's an invitation. It invites curiosity, it invites other people to help you, and it's how we actually connect with each other.
So the ultimate takeaway is this. You are not some fragile teacup trying desperately not to get a single crack. You are a dynamic work of art. And every challenge, every failure, every single time the world tries to break you, that's just another chance to add a little more gold.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. I want you to look at your own flaws, your own history, your own scars. What gold is waiting in your cracks?